not here, Bahulavan. I was in the very beginning with Kaladri, Katila, Jamadagni, Bhakta Bill, who became Harihara, Mahananda, Jitendri and his wife. Has anyone talked about spiritual sky here? I remember Ambarish glowing constantly because he was Strawberry Fields. I was from Philadelphia. I joined, of course, Kirtanananda, brought myself and my friend, his name was Ken Wolf, I was Vinny, and we came on a train we met Kirtanananda right after Earth Day, 1971, because we started going to the temple in Philadelphia after meeting the devotees. We were both searching. And 2 days later, he came to Philadelphia, and as he was doing wherever he could, he was taking people. So, of course, he mesmerized us, and we were on a train, and we went to Pittsburgh first. Bahulavan wasn't quite finished, the purchase. So we were in Pittsburgh, and at that time, immediately, I was working for Spiritual Sky. I remember packing. I had shipping experience. That's all they needed to hear. And I was within 3 days at the Pittsburgh temple, which was above that facility. So the temple room was the size of a basketball court. And of course, they told me right away that you clean the floor, you clean your heart. So I became cleaning the temple room every day. And 3 days later, I was temple commander. And blowing the conch shell 4 o'clock in the morning in front of everyone's door. Which was important there because the place was very ghostly haunted. It was a bar underneath, among other things. But after a few weeks, then we went to Bahulavan, myself, and who became Yadavananda. My godbrother Yadavananda, we came together. And I remember him in the barn. We used to do Spiritual Sky in the barn. And he was filling oil bottles, or Spiritual Sky oils, and of course the incense. That was everywhere. The smell of the cheap chemicals. And Strawberry Fields was number 1. I think number 2 was patchouli. Jitendriya, he was East Coast manager, so yeah, we were shipping from here. I did many things in 16 months before I left with Prabhupada. That's why I feel embarrassed in front of all of you and what you've done here, hearing what you've done for Prabhupada. I was an inmate. I got an early release. I can't imagine if Kirtanananda, everything happened so fast. But in the meantime, I was milking 6 cows a day in Bahulavan at one point. I remember there. And that's why I feel we had no austerities in the beginning in Bahulavan. We had inherited cows that a couple came down from the Vrindavan farm. We had milk. Jersey, it was the Jersey cows. So there was no cream separator. That took a few months before that demon showed up in the Bahulavan farm right outside the door, this ugly machine, and it took all the cream out. Until that time, we thought milk was yellow, because all the cream, that's what we were drinking. Katila was making granola every morning. 4 or 5 months later, from 16 cups of granola went down to 1 cup, and so the milk, we still had milk. And when we first got there, we cleaned out the chicken coop. Of course, that became a residence. Just had the well outside. Inside there was no water, no kitchen facilities, but everything got worked out. I remember Kirtanananda telling me, there were some electrical things, so he had me fixing the electrical things. And I had never done any. I was 19 years old, and I said, "Well, look, you have to turn anything off." He said, "Just make sure you touch one wire at a time, and you'll be okay." So that's what I did, and that worked. So we got through that day. Myself and Yadavananda like everyone, we worked hard. Everyone at that, we chanted our rounds before Mongol Arti. And I remember at one point we got caught because we were always stealing the milk sweets from Mongol Arti sweets. And they were kept in a cabinet. And of course there was a lock and key on it, but us being as smart as we were, you had the hasp where the screws were showing on the outside. So all you had to do was unscrew the 3 screws. And in 2 minutes you had sweet rice and sandesh, rasgulla. So we were doing this for a number of days before finally someone found us out, and they went up to Kirtanananda. And he was very practical. I liked his style a lot in those days. And they said, Srutakirti Yadavananda, they were stealing the milk sweets. We didn't take all of them because that would have been too obvious. Just took a little from each. And he said, I don't care what they do as long as they're up 3 o'clock in the morning chant all the rounds. But of course they fixed the lock at that time. But it was a wonderful time. It was mending fences, and of course then there was that fateful time, I guess. I went to Los Angeles for my second initiation. Myself and Kaladri, and we all went in the van with Kirtanananda. And that's when I
was with you, Shruti.
Yadu was there. So it was it was like the typical, it was nice, like New Vrindavan style, no windows. But anyway, we got there, and immediately somehow or other, got service to Prabhupada. That's what happened. Because of Kirtanananda. He brought me to Prabhupada. He gave me to Prabhupada. Whatever he was. He was very good at that time. I traveled with him to colleges. That was the austerity for me, was when I left New Vrindavan, because he was austere on the road. We had khichdi once a day. Whatever you cooked in that little van, we slept in the van and just go to one college and another, and then he'd come back to New Vrindavan and shake things up, so start fixing the road with Vrindavan. I went to Vrindavan maybe 2-3 times in a year, because where you lived, that's where you went, right? That's where you stayed. But then that happened in Los Angeles, and I never imagined still that day was going to come. That day was going to come in a few months. But then I got my Brahmin initiation. I was also in the roadshow from the beginning. They were fun times, and that's why I didn't experience the winter either in New Vrindavan. Even the one and only winter I would have been here for, we went down south for the roadshow, which was a whole other experience. Getting locked up in jails. One jail cell we were in, it was in Alabama, of course, and it was Sunday, so it was Sunday feast time. But of course, there's like 8 of us in this jail cell. So we decided we were going to do it mentally, because, the sweet rice, So that was there, so we thought we're just going to do the mental seva. So, of course, I was the cook. And so now we're being watched by the police and everything. So we actually cooked. We cooked the feast. This is how, we were Hare Krishnas, we were new devotees. We were just... And we cooked, and then everybody sat down along the cell wall, and I served prasad. Anyway, they let us out. In the Radha Damodar party, I remember we stopped at Radha Damodar. We tied up at ropes. I was helping Shilavati, the first pujari there, and I had a very bad mishap one day, because I would carry from the temple. I was carrying her into the bus, Radharani, and I dropped her. I don't know what happened, and I dropped her. And of course, covered and went in, but I went to Kirtanananda, and I was just, that was it. My life was over. But he was so it happened a few times, and every time you always knew just what to say, you know. It kind of happened when you're with Prabhupada. He made you see things. He cleared things, I think. So even him, and he just said, just see how sincere you are. All these tears were flowing down. Anyway, I recovered from that. I remember we stopped at a drapery, like not a clothing store, you know, like draperies and all that stuff, because Kirtananda, we got a curtain rod. So that was Damodar's first flute, was a curtain, golden tin curtain rod. So, funny things, you know, we always did funny things. A wonderful prasadam there, though. That was Mangalananda's. We had our breadsticks. That's what we served in the roadshow. Breadsticks with kafta balls in them. It was to die for. He had that recipe. I don't know what he put in there besides dry flour, this, that. And this in a bus with the big walks in this bus with the key in it. And sometimes even while we were moving, Yadavananda was in that bus and he would be cooking. You know, we'd be cooking as the thing was traveling from one place to another. Sorry, I'm not talking about New Vrindavan. At the Bahulaban farm, there was the milk house was there. That was a cinder block house. So from the very first day we were there, Kirtananda left us all there. I remember going into the little shed, and whoever we bought the place from, you know, they left their junk in the shed and stuff. So we went through it, and Kirtananda were separating it like this is trash. Then there was like this nasty old cast iron, you know, not a pot, a pan, a big cast iron, ugly, rusty, sitting there. And he said, well, you can clean that up, that's okay. And I'm thinking, wow, you know, like, okay. So that was, then by the time Prabhupada came, I was cooking. You know, I had learned how to cook. Kirtananda, first thing he did when I got Brahman initiation was put me in the kitchen. As he said earlier, I was in charge also in Bahulaban, the kitchen, which meant you did everything. You know, from the time you got up in the morning until you went to bed, you were in that kitchen. So then I started cooking, and Kirtananda, he was the one that showed me all my moves, the basic things, khichdi. I was always, well, what spices? And he was, again, I see him just talking now, I see how Prabhupada's influence, because he did that with me as well. I'd say, what spices? And he'd say, whatever you see on the shelf, put a little bit in, he'd say, you know? A little this, a little that. He had me when I first came, this was May 1971, in Bahulaban. One of my services was to read a Krishna book story every day. Same thing I did with Prabhupada when I joined him, first time. Anyway, he had me read it, and at nighttime, we would be up in the ashram, the brahmachari ashram, and they would all lie down, and I would tell the story. I didn't read the story, I would have to tell what I remembered from the story. So we did that every night. And at lunchtime, my job was reading Krishna book during lunch. And then everybody would eat lunch, and then you had maybe 15 minutes where it was just on the hill at the side of the house in the summertime, because I only knew the nicer weather. You would just lie down and boom, you would be out. 2 seconds later, you would be dreaming. And then in a few minutes, you would be called back to your duties. I think one of the things I think that worked in my favor was when I came, right at the beginning, I didn't like prasadam. I actually wanted to find God. That was my thing. And as soon as I was told it was Krishna, I accepted it. I had no arguments, no anything. I was, as Shama Sundar said when I became Prabhupada's servant, I was a blank slate. So it was the same, and I just absorbed it all. But so at lunchtime I read Krishna book, and then again we get back to work. So then I was with Prabhupada. The very first thing he said to me in the garden, and I was the Krishna book reader. Karundar gave me that job when we arrived at New Dwarka. And there were just 4 or 5 of us in there, but he said, you'll be reading Krishna book. And as soon as we got there, Prabhupada looked and had me read. And then he stopped and he said, I like the cowboys very much. And then I continued reading, and there was a demon. I don't even remember to say that Krishna killed him. And when I said one line, Prabhupada just exploded into ecstasy and started slapping his leg and laughing, and his whole body shaking, and tears are coming down. Because he was seeing it all. You know, we're reading, but then as soon as he did it, we did it. Because we didn't do it because of the story, because even I'm reading it, I'm not even hearing it. But Prabhupada was hearing it, seeing it, feeling it, everything. And when I saw that, I thought, that's Krishna consciousness. You know, that's what I want, you know. And I would marvel at Nanda Kumar in the temple room in the morning, you know, giving Prabhupada his glasses, putting the book out. I think, wow, what a service. You know, somebody does these things. That's what I saw. That's what I liked. But I never thought I was just a new Vrindavan boy. I was just here in New Vrindavan. I was no one. But I liked it, and I would watch Nanda Kumar. One time he saw me watching him, because I just thought it was fascinating that someone is like a personal servant of Prabhupada. And then he saw me looking at him, and he was like, you know, like, what's wrong with you? So of course I turned away, and I didn't look at him anymore. You know, I looked at Prabhupada more. But I thought, what a wonderful service. So then in New Vrindavan, Prabhupada came, and I was so eager to see him again, be with him again, you know, read to him, go on the morning walk with him, and it all got taken away. I was in the kitchen in New Vrindavan, cooking for a couple hundred devotees. Radhanath was helping me. Veer Krishna Swami, Radhanath Swami, they were my assistants during this festival. This was 1972. And people would come and see me in the kitchen and say, wow, did you hear that lecture? And I go, no. You should have been there, you know, and yes. That's what I knew, that morning walk, you know, that Prabhupada, just to be with that person. I didn't know anything, just to be around him was happy, you know. It's funny, they use the analogy of the dog, you know. My daughter has a dog like that, all of a sudden he likes me, so it's just big, looks like a bear. He's a Newfie. Anyone knows what Newfoundland are? Looks like a big brown bear. But I like him a lot, and he likes me, and as soon as he sees me, he just runs up, you know. It doesn't even matter if I do anything. Now, that's what it's like to be around Prabhupada. You don't have to know anything, just be around them. So I was around them. Now I wasn't around them anymore, and I wasn't happy about it. I was cooking all the time. And it was 8 o'clock at night, and I was cooking again those Mongol Arctic sweets that I would steal later on. I wasn't stealing them anymore. And I was cooking them, and Kirtananda walked into the room with his cane, and big smile on his face. You know. He said, Srutakirti, you're going to be so happy. He said, you're going to be Prabhupada's servant. I said, I didn't even know what to say, you know. It was just out of nowhere. And that was it. And he said, of course, we knew that one now. He said, and I told Prabhupada he'll be the best servant he ever had. He said, because you'll never leave him. Of course I did. And then the next morning, I went to Kirtananda came and got me. It's like 5 o'clock in the morning, 5:30 in the morning. And he brings me to Madhuban, where Prabhupada would stay in that farmhouse. So it was right there where I did my very first service. And we went in, and Prabhupada, Kirtananda introduces me again to Prabhupada, this Srutakirti. He said he cooks very nicely. I taught him how to cook. And Prabhupada said, very nice. Then he said, but he doesn't know how to massage. Once or twice, he asked me, in our travels, would you like to give me a massage? And I was like, know, like I didn't know how for one thing, but I just didn't. So I said no. So he said that, and then Prabhupada said, anyone can massage. He said, it's easy. And so that was the beginning. But that very first day, and I just thought that this morning, I went right back to that the Pittsburgh temple, very first place I did service for Jagannath, Lord Jagannath, the same Jagannath, where we got him anyway. At the temple, the big Jagannath. So that was the first form of the Lord I saw when I entered the temple. And that's how I was just, didn't question. They said, here's God, you're Jagannath, his sister, and everything was just immediately okay. It was fine. So we were back there, right at that place, and in Pittsburgh. And Prabhupada was in his sitting room, and I had just driven with him in the car for 2 hours. He doesn't say one word to me. And of course, I'm not saying anything. I'm rattled, All of a sudden, I'm not in New Vrindavan anymore. And we get there, and I watch Sudama give him a massage. Sudama Maharaj, and I'm like, because that was my big anxiety, was I was going to actually not just touch him, massage him, Prabhupada, So Sudama was there, I was so relieved, and I'm just watching, and then I thought, well, that's good, I won't have to do that. And then at the end of the massage, thank you, Prabhupada. He said, no, I'm going to Japan, and I was like, oh no. I had to learn very fast. And Prabhupada was so patient. But then I was in my room looking through his luggage. First time the bell rang. The only instruction you got, right, in those days. When I came here to New Vrindavan, I remember then it was like said Jamadagni, these people were there. And we were all sleeping on the floor. 5 or 6 of us. And I had a sleeping bag, and I put it down, and when I laid down, I laid down on my stomach. So that's how I slept, I was 19 years old, sleeping on my stomach for 19 years. And as soon as I laid down, man, Jamadagni's next to me, he yells at me. He said, you're sleeping with Maya. I said, what? I guess someone was under the floorboard. No, anyway, the idea of sleeping in your stomach became very much discouraged, which I didn't realize at that time. So, then a few days later, I was talking to Jitendriya's wife. I forget what her name was. Remember Jitendriya and his wife? Yeah. So. Yeah. Yeah, anyway, she was nice, she was pleasant. And to me, she was, even though I didn't even know the term then, she was like a mother. Because I was 19, and some of these people were ancient, 25, 26, 20, some were even, I think, 30. I remember seeing Trivikram. He looks the same now as he did in 1971. He looked old, and now he looks kind of the same, I recognize him so much. But, I'm sorry, what was I going?
You were talking to Gentria's wife.
Yes, I was sleeping on my floor. I didn't do that anymore. And I learned to make them cope and really, really tight. We didn't do it once, we did it 3 times. We go back and forth and back.
You were talking to the mother, you said. You were talking to the mother, that's what you were getting.
Yeah. Oh, I was getting back to her. So she was talking to me, and again, this devotee comes up to me, he says, do you want to get married? He says, what are you doing talking to a woman? I said, I don't know, she started talking to me, and I was talking back. So those influences were already there very early. The men, nobody talked to you, they just do your service, just do your service. She was a little friendly, so that was bad. But so that was it. That was the early times there. But then I remember this, yes.
What did Kirtanananda give you when you became Prabhupada's servant? He gave you something.
Yeah. He was Kirtanananda. He was very smart, he wasn't so And I asked him much at the Bhakti Center, maybe 10 years ago or so, 15 years ago, whenever I saw him, he was in a wheelchair, and I came up and I said, when you had me go with Prabhupada, I said, was that a plan you had? Like, because it seemed like he actually set me up for it. He had me do personal service to him, he put me in the kitchen, so I was thinking. And he asked me to give massage, once or twice. So I said, was there a plan? And he said, no. He said, just Prabhupada came, didn't have a servant. He said, I guess it was between maybe me and Kaladri or something. But I was obviously the one, that would have been, because I wasn't a manager. So it worked out well. So so that was that. And then he gave me a framed picture of Radha Vrindavan Chandra. So he said, you keep that, because Prabhupada, he knew everything. So Prabhupada had his white bag, so along with all his other desk items that would go in that bag was the picture of Radha Vrindavan Chandra. So wherever we went, we would put the picture. I would put the picture on Prabhupada. So I was like the infiltrator. I was the spy, for Vrindavan. And that's what he said, because he would send me things, Kirtananda, like little questions or things at times. And actually, the very first time I ever wrote about Prabhupada was weeks after being with him, 2 weeks. We were in Vrindavan, and I started writing Kaladri. And I'd write him these letters. And reading these letters, I just was reading them today. I was in tears reading how nice things were, how nice my consciousness was at that time. I was so much appreciated being with Prabhupada. And I remember Prabhupada, devotees in New Vrindavan, they're offering arti to the cows. Prabhupada would shake his head. He said, tell them to polish their hooves, he said, and horns, and brush them. He said, you don't do arti to the cows, He said, do what they like. He said, just brush them. So whenever there was some question, I would get to pass it on. So that was one of my duties. And then, of course, I should stop here. I'm sorry. Yes. No.
No, there's more, and we have more time with you on other days too.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's one woman who came and she couldn't even come because her van was broken and she can't stay overnight.
Okay.
So.
No, thank you. Thank you all. How do you think?